income for a company, right? Because we have done with individual, right? So we look at for example, the badges of trade, all the 6 badges of trade, 6 plus 3, and then we also have a look at the derivation of business income, some examples, and also other types of business income together with the commencement date of a business. All right, so for today we will continue with business deductions. Let me show you the business deduction. All right, so this is a continuation from last week's business income. So here we're going to look at business deductions, because in order for us to calculate the adjusted income and statutory income for business, we have to know what is our gross income and what are actually the business deductions that we can deduct from the income. All right, so for business deduction, what we have here is that right, so this is what we've gone through last week under section 4A, business income. And then so these are the types of income from a business. So these are the gross income, right? So it can be all cash debts arising in the course of carrying out on the business, non-refundable advance receipts. So remember, the refundable advance receipt will not be considered as income. And then dividend income from a share dealing business. Bad debts written off in previous year, which was subsequently recovered. All right, so in some cases, company might write off their bad debt. So you all know what bad debt is, right? So when, let's say in certain year, company write off their bad debts, let's say they write off last year, but suddenly this year or the following year, they get back the amount. So that can be considered as their gross income. It can also be interest income of a financial institution or from the money lender. So these are basically the gross income from a business. What we want to know is that, all right, I go back to this format that I shared with you when we did topic 3 last time, the chargeable income. So this is basically what we're going to do with gross income. So we have to compute the gross income, adjusted income, statutory income, and also aggregate income, and total chargeable income. So for business, normally the total income is the chargeable income, because for individual, when we have total income, we have to deduct the personal relief in order for us to arrive at chargeable income. Okay, so here what we are going to look at today is actually we have to start with net profit before tax, the one that I explained to you last week. So for a business, they have their own set of accounts, right? So they have their own financial statement that is prepared based on accounting standards. Okay, so based on accounting standard, they have one figure here which they have net profit before tax. But what we have to do is we have to do some adjustment. In taxation, some of the expenses are non-deductible, and some are actually non-allowable expenses, right? In order for us to arrive at adjusted income. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at today, the adjustment part for the business deduction. So, all right, a little bit about principles of deduction. So again, so we are going to look at deduction because this will help us to compute the adjusted income. All right, so the net profit before tax normally we get from financial statements. All right, so principles of deduction, what will help us in calculating the deduction? So first of all, you must remember capital receipts are not taxable and capital expenditure are not deductible. So remember when we did our rental income, only repairs and maintenance can be deducted, but not renovation. So renovation is actually capital expenditure, so they are not deductible. So for expenditure to qualify for deduction, it must be related to the business. So you cannot simply deduct, okay, you're doing business, but you spend some money to your family and you want to deduct that as your deduction. So cannot. It must be related to the business carried on by the taxpayer. And the expenditure must be incurred in the period which the income is brought to charge. So let's say you spend in year 2021, that would be deductions in year 2021. So you cannot carry forward the deduction to year 2022. Or for example, you're doing taxation for year 2021, you cannot carry forward your deduction from year 2020. So it must be incurred in the period which the income is brought to charge. Alright, so we have qualifying deductions under Income Tax Act 1967. So we have allowable deductions. So you have to be careful with the terms. One is called allowable deduction, which means these are deductions that are allowed by the Income Tax Act. This is under Section 33. Dengan syarat it must wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of gross income. Okay. This allowable expenditure. So allowable deduction ni macam kita buat rental tu lah. You have rental income as your gross income and you have to incur all the repairs, maintenance, quick rent, assessment. So those are allowable deductions. This allowable expenditure, which is under Section 39, in case of rental income, we cannot deduct renovation ataupun kita kata capital expenditure. Okay, so those are not allowed. So in this case, we have, for example, for interest, rent, repairs and renewals, we have Section 33(1)(d) for the deductions, right? Those are the allowable deductions. And for business, we also have specific business deductions under Section 34 and also 35. But first of all, we have to be able to identify what are the character of revenue and capital expenditure, right? Because we can only deduct the revenue expenditure, not the capital expenditure. Number one, it must be a lump sum payment, and we have to look at the magnitude of the expenditure, how much or how big is the expenditure, and also the accounting treatment. So the accounting treatment can be once and for all, enduring benefit, identifiable asset, fixed capital and circulating capital, and also a business entity. Right, for example, yang tu income, tak apa, kita tengok the next one nanti. If ada example nanti, I would let you know. Alright, deduction provisions is under Section 33. So again, adjusted income of a person from a source for the basis period shall be amount ascertained by deducting from the gross income of that person all outgoings and expenses wholly and exclusively incurred. So again, it must be related to the business, right? If expenses is not related to the business, then you cannot claim deductions. Ada juga deduction prohibited. Ini straight away it is prohibited in the Act under Section 39. So we have Section 39(1)(a) until Q, not deductible in arriving at the adjusted income from a source. And these expenses are actually disallowed, apply to both business and also non-business source. For example, domestic and private expenses. So you cannot deduct your private expenses. Okay. Expenditure not wholly incurred in the production. Contribution to a non-approved scheme. So remember, the contribution mestilah dekat approved scheme. For example, kita ada EPF, that is an approved scheme. So any contribution to a non-approved scheme will not be allowed as a deductions. Okay, qualifying mining and prospecting and agricultural expenditure, and also entertainment expenses. Alright, for entertainment expenses, ni dia special sikit because I have shared with you in the notes the entertainment expense. So in there we can actually look at the public rulings which are the entertainments they are actually allowed as deductions. Okay, next one is the deductible and non-deductible expenses. So again, Section 33, these are interest expense and income, rent, repairs and renewal, and also other deductions. This is specifically under Section 33 lah. And here we have the specific business deductions. Okay, so whenever you see these in the question, ini semua are actually considered as business deductions. So these are all under Section 34(6). So but that's employers' contribution, payroll and turnover taxes, mining expenditure, replanting expenditure, equipment of disabled employees, translation of national and national language publications, provision of library facilities, community welfare, banyak childcare facilities, managing musical and cultural group, sponsoring arts, cultural or heritage activities, halal certification, practical training. So all these are actually allowed to be deducted in the expenditure of a business, which means from your gross income, these are all the allowable deductions. So end of the day, that will reduce our income, the adjusted income would be low, and eventually that will result in a low tax payable. Okay, so the purpose is actually to reduce the amount of tax payable. So most companies, they have to make sure the different types of deductions in order for them to enjoy the business deductions under section 34 and 35. Alright, so again, under section 33(1), they actually permits two types of deduction: expenses wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of income, and also outgoings. So outgoings ni normally is a disbursement lah, which means expenses juga. And it is important that the event must be connected to the conduct of the taxpayer's business. There are also deductions that are not specifically mentioned in income tax provision. For example, accountancy fees, advance and loan, advertising costs, bonus, business acquisition costs, travelling costs, trade and club subscription. So dalam standard tak ada, there is no mention about this one. Not specifically mentioned, but we can also deduct all this expenditure. Ada banyak lah sampai up to, I think sampai, because I list down everything here, so whenever you see questions on business taxation, so these are all actually business deductions. Sampailah. Alright, sampailah entertainment expense. So entertainment expense, kita kena follow public ruling number 4 2015. I have shared with you this one as well. Okay. Double deductions. So what is the meaning of double deduction? For example, you spend certain amount, 4,000. Let's say the expenditure is 4,000. You hire disabled employees. So this is a very clear cut in the section. Whenever you have disabled employees, let's say disabled employee ni you bayar gaji dia 20,000 per year. Okay. For the deduction, you can deduct 40,000, and that is what is meant by double deduction. So to encourage companies to hire disabled employees, so the income tax, the government even give them incentive so that the deduction can be double. Also, if the company send the handicapped person for training, the cost of training tu, let's say training dia 5,000, but the company can deduct 10,000, double deduction to encourage them to hire disabled employees. If they are involved in export credit insurance premium or the freight charges from Sabah and Sarawak to Peninsula Malaysia, so for Sabah and Sarawak companies, they incur freight charges, transportation costs, and that can be deducted as double. Okay, nanti kita tengok example yang saya share, the business taxation tu, a very long question tu, so dalam tu ada all these deductions. Okay. So this expenditure actually can be set off twice. So maksudnya boleh double lah. So among activities are, number one, promotion, besides the one that I shared just now, it can also be promotion of export. Okay, so these are expenses incurred to promote export of product to overseas. So these can be deducted twice from the profits. So it can be overseas advertising, export market research. So this is also to encourage Malaysian company to export their product outside, so they can enjoy the incentive, which is promote the product or promote the activity, which means kita ada Malaysian product, you want to promote overseas, you incur some promotional cost, so that cost can be deducted twice, maknanya you can double up the cost. Okay. And also tourist industry, tourism industry, you want to promote certain places in Malaysia, or promote Malaysia as a tourist destination, so the cost too can be deducted twice. This is again to encourage the promotion of exports. Employee training program, alright, so for company who send their employee for training, provided that it is training approved by the government, and it can also be deducted twice from the taxable profits, which means the profit would be lower and eventually the tax payable would be lower. Okay. So this incentive is available for the two manufacturing companies and companies engaged in the hotel and tourist industry. Not all industry lah, for the employee training program. So manufacturing company, because this is in order for them to upgrade the skills of the staff, and also for hotel and tourist industry. Disabled person, ini again like I mentioned before, all remuneration, which are the salary and wages, payable to physically or mentally disabled employees, regardless, tak kisah disabled apa, physical or mental, as long as the employee tu ada OKU card tu. So the employer can deduct the salary and wages to twice from the taxable profit. So this incentive is available to manufacturing companies, right? This is again to encourage company to hire disabled persons. Okay, research and development. So any expenditure incurred on government approved, the key word here is actually government approved lah. You cannot simply pergi dekat any research not approved by the government. So you cannot enjoy the benefit. Again, for R&D pun boleh deducted twice from taxable profits. Freight charges, alright, again ini for company in Sabah or Sarawak, certain manufacturing industry, so they can deduct the amount of freight charges incurred. Alright, next is brand promotion advertising. This is again related to the promotion of export study. So if any company incur expenditure to promote export quality standard Malaysian owned product, let's say nak promote batik Malaysia lah, all those, you know, the handbags, bags yang dipakai rotan semua tu kan. So you want to promote all these Malaysian owned product ni, they are also subject to double tax deduction to promote Malaysian product. Dengan syarat, okay. Just to make internationally known, and therefore we include such expenditure as billboards in international airports or highways. So let's say you travel to Korea, for example, you sampai je nampak ada satu batik Malaysia. So the Malaysian company have to incur that expenditure and they can claim for double deduction. Dengan syarat, the company must be 70% Malaysian owned. And the product must achieve export quality standards. And this incentive is also available to manufacturing company. So key here must be 70% Malaysian owned lah. So the board of directors, so dia tengok siapa yang own. Alright, I will go straight away to question ni, kita simpan dulu. I will straight away go to the business taxation question. But I'm not sure dalam soalan ni ada capital allowance tak? Sebab saya belum cover capital allowance. Bolehlah kita go through sikit. Any questions tak so far? Okay je kan? Because for now you have to read je dulu the different types of deductions ni. Alright, so I have shared with you this question ada dalam my guru juga. So this is a very long question about company. Right, so what we have to do is, so you don't have to panic when you get this question, memang panjang, and sometimes I get comments, alamak, doctor, we don't know what to do with this question, so long. So what you have to do is just follow the step and follow whatever solution that I have provided here. This is to help you during your exam especially, and also for your tutorial question later. Alright, so let's go through the question. Saya tak baca semula, but I just want to show you that for a business, we normally have, this is what I told you before, a net profit before tax. This is coming from the accounting side and from the financial statement, which is prepared based on accounting standards. Alright, so as I told you, not all expenditure here can be deducted based on taxation rules. In accounting, these are all can be deducted as the expenses, because in accounting, any expenses related to the business, you boleh tolak je. Right, remember kita buat rental income last time, ada penalty kan, penalty for late payment. So as a company, you can still incur that as your expenses. You tolak je in order for you to arrive at your net profit before tax. But in taxation, those are not allowed. So whatever expenditure that is not allowed as a deduction in income tax, we have to add them back. Boleh faham the concept ni, we have to do some adjustment from this figure. We cannot simply ambil, okay, net profit before tax is 19,882. Kita terus tengok je, okay, corporate tax rate is 28%. You terus darab 28% to get the tax payable for this company. No, we cannot do that. We have to do tax computation for the adjustment. So this can be considered as the gross income dulu. Okay, because we have to do adjustment in order for us to arrive at the adjusted income. Alright, so let's look at the expenses here. So this is a standard financial statement or standard profit and loss account. So we start with sales, we minus cost of sales, we add other income kalau ada, and we minus all the expenses. So remuneration is the wages and salary. They have professional fees, advertising, entertainment expenses, interest, bad debt, lease rental, repairs and maintenance, foreign exchange loss, fines and penalties, donations, insurance, research and development, and also depreciation. So all expenses amounted to 11,000. So the last figure here is the net profit before tax. So our objective is to calculate the tax payable for these Subang Electronic companies. Okay. So you have a very long notes here, for example, about the cost of sale. So for cost of sales ni, you have to decide whether the amount can be deducted ataupun tidak. Okay. So other income consists of other rent, other single tier dividends, breach of contract, okay, and then remunerations include entertainment allowance totaling 440,000, and this is 440 paid to the managing director and the marketing manager, and then contribution of 71,400 to an unapproved provident fund. Nampak tak? Kita buat tadi for deduction to be allowed, it must be from approved fund kan. So this is unapproved fund. Salaries amounting to 48,000 paid to 3 employees certified as disabled. So we know untuk disabled employees ni dalam financial statement you kena tolak whatever amount that you incurred je, which is 48,000. But for tax purposes 48,000 ni kita boleh tolak double, okay, because the employees are disabled. Expenses of 17,000 for recruiting employees, okay. Professional fees, adalah the list of professional fees up to 47,000. Advertising, okay, the company owns the Malaysian brand of electrical appliances. Malaysian brand is registered as a trademark in Malaysia. So branded goods are of export quality. The company advertise its branded goods through the local newspaper and travel catalog. So we know based on the deduction yang kita tengok tadi tu, so for advertising dan barang tu export quality and registered as trademark in Malaysia, dia owns a Malaysian brand. So this can also be allowed as a double deduction. Okay. Entertainment expenses, alright, ada pula hampers for customers, staff lunches and refreshment, promotional gift, disbursement of promotion teams, entertainment expense. Okay. The company had borrowed money to invest in shares from which the dividend income was derived. Okay, ada pula interest charge on loan, 34,000. These are the bad debts. Okay, total bad debt dia ada general and also specific. Ada lease charges. This is the hire purchase dia. Dia ada 3 vehicles. Ada lease charge for the year ended 30th June ni. Okay, so ada benda yang nanti kita boleh skip, kita skip dulu. Alright, ada repairs and maintenance. Installation security alarm, replacement component parts, repainting, factory permission and modification of administration block to provide access for disabled employees. Nampak tak? Anything to do with disabled employees ni is actually a deduction. Boleh deduct. Foreign exchange loss, fine and penalty, donation, okay, insurance payment, R&D expenditure, and also ada capital allowance. Alright, untuk capital allowance ni kita akan buat later. Saya belum cover lagi capital allowance, but kita go through the question ni dulu for maybe half of it. Alright, so this is what you should do. You have to start with net profit before tax. Okay, so kita buatlah 2 kolom dekat sini column for you to add back whatever figure from the financial statement tadi, and also the one that we have to deduct. So the one that yang kita akan deduct ni is actually the one that is not taxable ataupun double deduction. Okay. So here we have net profit before tax, donation of electrical appliances, yang dekat cost of sale tadi So donation of electrical appliances kita kena add back lah sebab dia kira donation dalam walaupun dia tolak tadi dekat cost of sales. So we have to add back here under cost of sale. So theft of stock ni dia kata barang dia kena curi. So dan dapat juga insurance recovery, so you don't have to do anything with that. So kita tak payah add back or deduct back And then other income, dia kata dia ada rental from property in Indonesia. So kita deduct lah. Sebab itu tak kena tax, because you must remember apa yang kita tambah dekat sini ni, whatever amount that we add here is actually amount that is taxable. Right, so rental income ni from Indonesia property ni is not taxable, so kita kena tolak balik lah dekat sini Dividend pun tolak balik, not taxable. And also compensation on termination of contract. Tak adalah remuneration, gaji yang dibayar tadi 8960 tu. Remuneration tadi. Alright, so for remuneration kita ada, we have recruitment expenses. Okay. You don't have to do anything here because this is not taxable. And then entertainment allowance to directors. Alright, entertainment allowance to directors, if you read dalam public ruling tu for entertainment of directors ni, 50% disallowed. Which means the entertainment allowance to directors tadi dia bayar 440,000. Okay, bila dia bayar 440,000, 50% not allowed. So yang not allowed ni kita kena tambah balik lah. Kita tak boleh tolak semua itu maksudnya. Because tadi dekat depan kita we already deducted 440,000. Okay, but in taxation, based on taxation rules, the entertainment allowance to directors can only be deducted up to 50% sahaja. Okay, so kita tambah balik 220. So these are the amount that will be taxable. 220 yang tak allow ni, you have to pay tax. Unapproved fund contribution, again, unapproved is not allowed. So kena tambah balik. Disabled employee salary, alright, employee salary tadi boleh double. So double deduction. So kita tolak lah dekat sini 48. Professional fees, ini semua tak kena tax lah. Legal fees tak kena. Non-trade debt collection, ini kena. Because apa? Sebab dia non-trade. You must remember anything must be directly related to the business. Kalau non-trade maksudnya ni not related to the business lah. So non-trade debt collection we have to add back. Accounting and auditing fees not taxable. Secretarial fees not taxable. Feasibility study is taxable. So kena tambah balik 15. Advertising on Malaysian branded goods. This is double deduction. Okay, double deduction kita kena tolak lagi. Sebab tadi dah tolak satu, dah tolak 54. So you have to tolak again. Sama dengan employee tadi, kita dah tolak tadi 48 dekat dalam financial statement kita. So here you tolak again. Right? Because dia double deduction. So dekat sini double deduction, double deduction. Yang dekat sini tadi sebab not taxable. Sebenarnya not taxable tu kita keluarkan lah. So ini double deduction. Kita tolak lagi sekali. Interest. Okay, interest is taxable. Interest on borrowing. Just like kita buat rental income lah. Interest on mortgage. Semua tu kita tambahkan as our, kita tolak as our expenses. Entertainment. Okay, hampers for customer. If you look at the hampers for customer ni, dia bagi hamper 4,000. Ini pun actually if you read based on the sections, the one that I share in the notes too. Okay, so for example, entertainment expenses ni, you really have to go to public ruling tadi. You have to read the public ruling. So in the public ruling, it is mentioned that anything to do with customers, 50% je yang allowed untuk tolak. Another 50% is taxable. So kalau you tengok dekat sini tadi, hampers untuk customer 4,000. Tapi 50,000 dia allow untuk deduction. In the financial statement tadi dia dah tolak 4,000 tapi tak boleh tolak 4,000. Dia kena tolak 2,000 je. Because the public rulings mention that for hampers untuk customer 50% je boleh tolak. Staff lunches and refreshment. Okay. Tak kena, not taxable. Promotional gift not taxable. Disbursement of promotion team expenses. Okay, ini pun 50%. Right, so entertainment ni sekejap lagi saya tunjuk the public ruling tu so you can see from there. Okay, doubtful debts. $60, have to add back 60. Lease rental. Okay, lease rental ni, soalan ni ada benda yang memang kita tak cover. So the lease rental ni tak apalah, kita just ambil figure based on the calculation sini. Alright, let's look at the repair and maintenance. So new alarm system. New alarm system is considered as a capital expenditure. So capital expenditure is not allowed. That is why kita kena add back the 25,000 tu. Replacement of component parts. Replacement kan, tukar. This is expenditure, revenue expenditure ataupun kita kata repairs biasalah. So not taxable. Repainting of factory not taxable, and also modification. Modification apa tu? For disabled employees pun not taxable. Because whatever to do with the disabled employees ni kebanyakannya memang not taxable. So not taxable kita letak nil ataupun dash je lah. Okay, so dalam ni dia ada foreign exchange loss juga so saya skip je this part, but for foreign exchange loss ni not allowed that is why we have to add back. Fines and penalty, okay, not allowed, so you have to add back 15 and also 7 ni kena add back and then scholarship. Okay, scholarship double deduction juga, so kita deduct lagi 30. Cultural show not taxable. University library, okay, ini ialah donation so donation to university library, the maximum is the amount that can be allowed is 100,000. So sekarang dia donate 150,000. So the balance ni 50 ni dia kena bayar tax lah. Okay, because the maximum can be donated to university library is 100,000. Okay, donation dalam bentuk cash, kena deduct, kena add balik lah, kena tax. Okay, export credit insurance, okay, double. Motor vehicles, the stock building ni tak ada, not taxable, not taxable. Research and development, fixtures and equipment, taxable, but operating cost not taxable. Sorry, not taxable, but double deduction. And also kita tambah balik lah the depreciation dia. So these are our adjusted income. Alright, so you can see here dia ada capital allowance. So I skip this part dulu. So we arrive at, kita tengok up to adjusted income je lah. Yang bawah ni tak boleh tengok lagi. But when we have our adjusted income ni, right, but you have to keep this example we'll come back to this later. Okay, so ada income tadi, single tier dividend, not taxable, rental not taxable, rental exempted. Aggregate income dia, approved donation, cash tolak dekat sini, nampak tak? Cash ni kena tambah balik sebab tempat donation bukan dekat atas ni. Donation cash kena dekat bawah. Okay. So this is the total chargeable income dia, and this is the tax rate for year 2018, which is 24%. So if you need explanation why so the solution is like this, so you can read lah. So for example, for the cost of sale ni dia mention dekat sini kan. No adjustment, insurance, liable to tax. So that's why I share with you this question sebab dia ada explanation. So contoh compensation of termination of contract tak ada, secretary fee, deductible up to 5,000. So sekarang ni secretary fee dia tak sampai 5,000. So advertising again tadi dia kata dia adalah Malaysian brand name goods so dia dapat double deduction. Entertainment related to sales is fully allowable, but hampers to customer and also promotion team expenses are allowed 50% deduction. Okay, and promotional gift as staff lunch and refreshment ni fully allowed lah under section 39. So the lease rental, this is the calculation dia. Modification of administrative block for disabled employees. So nampak tak, the keyword here is actually any expenditure kalau buat alteration atau renovation of premises. Remember kalau macam rental for renovation memang not allowed, but if the renovation is made to assist any disabled person, sebab dia ada disabled employee, so dia kena renovate lah. Contoh macam dia kena buat ramp kan untuk the disabled employee, dia naik guna wheelchair, so they have to modify or they have to renovate the lobby contohnya, so they can claim the expenditure. But kalau dia biasa-biasa bangunan je, dia renovate, memang tak boleh claim lah. Kita akan treat just like rental income last time. So capital expenditure memang tak boleh deduct lah, ataupun is not allowed to be deducted. So scholarship, scholarship untuk student studying vocation training institution eligible for a double deduction. And sponsorship of cultural show, boleh dengan syarat jugalah, deductible up to 700,000. Okay. Donation to public library, okay, ini yang saya kata tadi lah, under section 34 ni, donation ni not exceed 100,000. Setakat 100,000 je dia boleh allow, more than that kena tax. Export credit insurance premium, double deduction juga ini pun ada dalam notes tadi. So for this question, I really hope you go through the example in detail. Alright, so look at the question and look how we actually answer the question so that you know bila kita buat adjustment. So I expect you to have two columns, the amount that you have to add back dan kolom untuk kita tolak Any question tak so far? Sebab ini kira halfway lagi tau. We have not done total or overall of business taxation because we haven't done capital allowance. But we look at the answer here. Mana tadi? Okay, we haven't done this part Yeah. Ni tiba-tiba je turun dari langit kan. Minus 103. And also income tax allowance ni. Ini semua kita buat later. Any questions tak so far?
We don't have to add the notes. Like if
No, tak payah. No, tak payah. So your calculation akan habis macam ni lah. This one is actually for your own understanding. So in your answer tak payah buat macam ni lah. You just apa ni? This is actually to help you understand better. Alright, let's go back to slide tadi. I have question dalam notes tadi. So maybe you can try to answer the question dulu before we move on to Alright, what do you think? Saya bagi multiple choice question je dulu. Alright, what do you think the answer for number 1?
C.
C. Setuju semua? Is it C? Which of the following is tax deductible? C, bad debts, number 2, which section prohibited deduction? Cari balik dalam tu. Which section?
C.
Non-allowable deduction, section 39. Okay, next one. Ni bukan 5 ni 4 Mana ada option 5 kat situ. Which one? For expenditure to qualify for deduction. Number one, it must be related to taxpayer's business. Betul tak?
Betul.
Okay, number one is
Betul.
it should not be of a personal nature.
Yes.
It cannot be pre-operation expenses. Don't know. The expenditure cannot be incurred after the cessation of business.
Betul.
Pun tak sure. Right, the answer is C, 1, 2 and 4. Number 4. Which of the following entertainment is not tax deductible? So Aladdin Sudian Berhad's annual dinner to staff. Deductible tak? So kita buat tadi kan, staff lunch kan? So it is deductible Jasmine Travels Sudian Berhad gives out souvenirs, bags and travel ticket to visitors at trade fair. Is it deductible? What do you think? Aladdin, after discussing his business proposal with his prospective client Jasmine, takes her and her assistant out for dinner at Genie restaurant. C, not deductible sebab kalau dia during discussion tu, then kita boleh consider itu entertainment lah. But now after And D, Aladdin gives free samples of its candles to guests at the launch of its new therapeutic candles. This is also deductible. So the answer is also C. Alright, next one. I actually forgot to upload the notes for capital allowance. Saya lupa nak letak. Saya dah letak macam-macam dah. So for where is my group? Alright, so in your My Guru, you can see this is my interface, the business income and business deduction. So inside this learning material, you have a few notes here, the business income that we did last week, the entertainment expense, right? This will help you to read lah mana satu entertainment yang boleh allow ataupun tidak. Business deduction is today's notes. Example business taxation yang tadi yang panjang tu, and I also share with you the double deduction of expenses. So in case the notes tu tak cukup, so you can read dalam ni lah. These are a list of expenses that are allowed for double deduction, and this is the professional expense. So let's say you see something about secretarial fee tadi kan, legal fees, so these are also public rulings. So I share with you the public rulings juga because not only we have to read the act, we also have to look at the public ruling. For example, untuk entertainment expense ni, mari kita tengok sekejap dalam ni. Alright, so these are the public ruling for entertainment expense. So you can find all these public rulings again in Lembaga Hasil website. So tak payah baca semula, just read the one related to us je. So here we have entertainment expenses. Okay, for example, so dalam ni adalah deduction for entertainment expenses. Principles in determining allowable entertainment expense kan. And also entertainment expense which qualify for 100% deduction, and also entertainment expense qualify 50% deduction. Promotion expense. So okay, let's see, tengok sikit dalam ni interpretation. They even have example dekat sini. So principle contohnya. Determine whether the expense falls with the definition of entertainment as provided under section 18. No deduction is allowed as minimum expense if the expenditure does not fall within the definition of entertainment. So here Megah Jaya held an annual dinner for his employees and incurred a cost of 10,000. So ini dikira sebagai entertainment expense. Okay. Wendy gave customer a microwave oven as a wedding gift. Entertainment expense but not allowed. Not wholly and exclusively incurred. So dia bagi hadiah sebab wedding gift. So you can read all these example dalam ni in order for you to help you understand better. And for example here we have entertainment expense qualify for 100% contohnya. Entertain employee, some of the supplier also present, the cost of dinner is 25,000. Entertain employee, okay, so allowable. Adalah dalam ni banyak, dia ni tak panjang, ambil rule ni pendek je. Boleh kata. Okay, promotional sample. Ini semualah macam kita tengok dalam soalan tadi. So promotional sample, promotional gift, cultural and sports. So apa yang kita consider as entertainment expense. So graph 39 lah. Banyak lah real property, sales agent buat apa. So voucher dikira macam mana, free gift apa 50% yang qualify for 50%. Macam ni lah Tadi dinner entertain employee can claim all 100%. But sekarang dinner entertain suppliers. Nampak tak beza Tadi dinner entertain employee, now dinner entertain supplier. So purpose of entertainment is to entertain the supplier. So entertainment expense does not fall within any of the categories. So 50% is not allowed for a deduction. 50% of the entertainment expense of 30,000 ni not allowed as a deduction, while the balance of 50% is allowed for deduction. Separuh je boleh. Sebab dalam ni dia bagi supplier tapi ada employee juga. Ni ada jugalah. 50% hampers to customer. Okay. So untuk bagi dekat customer ni tak masuk dalam paragraf yang tak boleh bagi. So 50% je lah. Boleh allowed allowed for deduction. Macam tadilah customer kan, dia bagi dekat customer, so 15%. So promotion expense, so you can read so in case you wonder, oh kenapa yang tadi tu jawapan dia 50% lah, kenapa jawapan dia boleh allow all so they are actually under entertainment expenses. So ini pun saya dah share dalam portal so you can refer lah, boleh baca lah. I really expect you to read kalau tak nanti when you want to answer business tax question ni and then you don't know mana dapat so you really have to read. Alright, I give you 3 minutes break before we move on to capital allowance. Capital allowance saya nak tengok dulu setakat mana saya boleh cover for today. Saya tak plan nak buat semua pun. Alright, so let's we'll continue with capital allowance in 3 minutes time. Alright, so let's continue a bit on capital allowance. So this is just to show you for the tax computation. This is what I saying it habis semua. Saya okay. Alright, so again, this is the format of the tax computation for a business or for a person kalau dia ada business so this will be like this. So ini kita dah buat for this section 4B until 4F. So when we have section 4A, and then now we can come back to Vincent Chin question. If you remember, kita buat Vincent Chin but we skip the section 4A part. So statutory income, let's say a person has a business 1 and 2 type of business. So kita kena add dulu. And let's say dia ada unabsorbed loss brought forward, kita boleh tolak juga dekat sini. And we add with all the other income or other types of income until we get the aggregate income. And then if let's say current year is making business loss, so kita boleh tolak dulu. Minus the approved donation, total income and minus relief, that will give a person chargeable income. Ini untuk individual. So for a business, adjusted income ni, we have to add balancing charge and minus the capital allowance kalau ada. That will give us a statutory income from business. So untuk this topic, we are going to look at this part, capital allowance. If you go back to the previous example tadi, they also have capital allowance, but I skip that part dulu. So until we finish with this capital allowance, then we can revisit apa tadi nama company, Subang Sonic something kan. Alright. So first of all, what is capital allowance? So for those of you who have learned accounting, so you must be familiar with the word depreciation. So capital allowance is actually depreciation according to tax rules. Right, so depreciation we know bila pakai certain types of assets, so the value of the asset will depreciate according to time. Okay, so in accounting we call it depreciation, but in taxation we call it capital allowance. But it is only applicable to business activity and not for individual. Okay, individual cannot claim capital allowance. Let's say I have a car, I use it every day. So dalam 1 year kita ada depreciation. I want to claim that for capital allowance, cannot. Only for business activity. If you have a business, then only you can claim capital allowance. So what is the purpose of capital allowance? Like what we learn about depreciation, the purpose of depreciation is also to give a relief for wear and tear of fixed asset for business. So normally assets used for business are motor vehicles, machinery, office equipment, and also furniture. So again, when a company they have an asset and the income tax allow for a capital allowance, so the value of the asset will reduce. So the capital allowance ni kita akan treat dia as expenses. So expenses ataupun deductions. So this deduction ataupun relief ni will eventually reduce the amount of tax payable. So again, the objective here is actually to reduce the amount of tax payable, but in order to qualify, the expenditure must be capital in nature and used for business purposes. Let's say I have a business, but I have a car. The car too is not used for business. The car too is untuk personal. I cannot claim capital allowance for that car, even though I have a business. But the car must be used for business. And the claim for capital allowance can be made in the relevant column provided in the tax return form. Okay. Alright, conditions for claiming capital allowances are, of course, number 1, you must operate a business and you purchase a business assets. And assets are being used in the business, and paling penting, you are the owner of the assets. Jadi tak boleh, you have a business, you have a car, but your car belongs to your father. Nama ayah, but you have your business. You want to claim capital allowance for that car, cannot. You must be the owner of the asset. So there are also several allowable deductions in terms of allowance for the capital expenditure. So this is very important for capital allowance. We have 2 types of capital allowances, which are initial allowance and annual allowance. So in your calculation, I allow you to write IA for initial allowance and AA for annual allowance. So ada 2 jenis allowance. Initial means when you first purchase the asset. So when you first purchase the asset during the first year, a company is entitled to get a initial allowance. Annual allowance is the allowance for every year. So every year tak dapatlah initial allowance ni. Initial allowance just for the first year, based on the original cost. So initial allowance ni fixed, generally 20%. So annual allowance means the rate is flat based on the original cost of the asset. So it is given for each year until the capital expenditure has been fully written off, unless the fixed asset is so scrapped or disposed. Which means when you have one asset, it costs you 100,000. let's say the capital allowance rate is 20%, so it will take you 5 years for you to fully write off the assets, unless during the second year you sell it. So kita ada different calculation for that. So there are two types of allowances. Alright, so the rates. So again, if you go back to your accounting knowledge, so when you learn about depreciation, the rates ni based on the asset is different. Company A might depreciate their motor vehicle at 20%. Company B might depreciate their motor vehicle at 40%. There is no flat rate for in accounting calculation. But for income tax, the rate is fixed. Regardless company A, B, C, D, as long as you have heavy machinery contohnya, your initial allowance is fixed at 20%, the annual allowance is fixed at 20%. Plant and machinery, 20% initial allowance, 14% annual allowance. Computer and IT equipment 20 and 40. Dia lagi tinggi because benda-benda teknologi ni dia cepat depreciate so the depreciation is higher. Others 20%. So for heavy machinery termasuklah ni lah, bulldozer, crane, ditches, excavator, grader, loader, reaper, saya tak tahu apa benda ni pun kan. Routers ni apa pun saya tak tahu. Tractor tahulah. Motor vehicles, alright, including motorcycles, aeroplanes, ships. Plant and machinery, general plant and machinery, not included under heavy machinery. So heavy machinery dia kategori lain nampak ni. Heavy machinery ni yang ni. Plant and machinery ni yang general one. Medical equipment, oven apa semua tu. Others including office equipment, furniture and also fitting. So you have no choice but you have to memorize the rate lah for this one because the rate is fixed. That is why again when we have profit before tax amount coming from the accounting side, the financial statement which comes from the accounting side, we have to do adjustment. Because in the financial statement, dia dah ada depreciation. Depreciation calculated based on the company's usage of the asset. So when we do the tax computation for the company and we want to calculate the capital allowance, kita kena kira balik because the rate is normally different. Alright, types of qualifying expenditure. Okay, kita nak tahu jugalah what are the different types of expenditure that are actually qualified to be deducted as capital allowances. Alright, so it includes qualifying expenditure on plant and machinery, industrial building, mining expenditure, prospecting expenditure, agriculture and also forest expenditure. But I think I will focus only on plant and machinery and also industrial building pun tengok dulu maybe plant and machinery je, right? Because you are not doing taxation per se that you need to know every details of this. So kita just introduce to you what is capital allowance and what is it for. So I think that would be enough already. Unless you are going to become a tax agent later. So this is memang benda yang perlu ada at your fingertips lah. Alright, so first of all, let's look at plant and machinery. Okay. So plant and machinery mesti refer to case law for guidelines lah. So for example, when we talk about plant, it is actually apparatus used for carrying business. Book and swimming pool at the caravan park itu termasuk juga. A mere part of the setting used for the business is not plant. Contohnya electric lamps and fittings. And a ship used as a floating restaurant. Ini bukan plant. Shelter to the business is not plant. Canopy at a petrol station. Petrol station is a plant. Bangunan tu kan. Tapi tiba-tiba ada canopy kat sebelah tu, itu that is not considered as plant. It is very important because nanti later on when you want to compute the capital allowance, kita kena kira QE dulu, qualifying expenditure, because sometimes it's not clear cut and not only you have the value ataupun the cost of the plant and machinery je. You have the transportation lah, the installation lah, so we have to compute what types of cost that can be included in our calculation. Okay, so capital allowance are available to any business if the following 4 conditions are met. So again, the expenditure must have been incurred in providing the plant or machinery. The person must be carrying on a business. The person must be the owner, and the machinery must be used in the purpose of the claimant's business. Again, you cannot have a plant and machinery. You don't have a business, but your father use it for his business, and he wants to claim. Tak boleh lah, sebab dia bukan owner. So expenditure incurred on the installation of machinery or plant is also qualifying expenditure. So not only the price of the plant or machinery, the installation cost is also considered as expenditure dia, because kita nak kira 20% tadi tu, the table sini kan tadi kan, we have this table here, we want to know 20% ni nak darab dengan apa? What is the amount of the expenditure that we need to multiply ataupun the rates ni. So this is how we get to the qualifying expenditure. The total cost or total cost dia kan. Qualifying expenditure is the cost dia. Okay. For qualifying expenditure, ada 10% rule. Expenditure incurred on preparing, cutting, tunneling or leveling land to prepare a site for the installation of plant or machinery. Which means, let's say you incur two type of cost. Satu, you purchase a plant atau you purchase a machinery. Contohnya, the cost is 1 million. At the same time, you have to install the machinery in the factory. Now, install the machinery, you have to incur another cost. So the installation cost ni cannot be more than 10% of the aggregate cost of installation and the cost of plant and expenditure ni. Kita tengok macam dia kira. So the rules is 10% rule. Okay, so this is the example. Example ni kena pakai. It's not. Okay. Machine. Alright. So this company, TM Sdn Berhad ni, they have 3 types of asset. Kita akan tengok satu-satu ni. So printing machine, cost of machine is 280. Ada cost of alteration to the existing building for the installation. Is 33,600 and cost of installation is 2,400. Cutting machine, capital expenditure for the cost 62,000. Installation 8,000. Ada dua je. Oh, lagi satu. Last sekali. Alright, so let's look at the first one, printing machine. Cost of the machine tadi 280,000. Cost of alteration 33,600. And the installation cost is 2,400. Alright, what we are looking here, yang 10% rule tadi. Alright. So installation expenditure ni cannot exceed more than 10% daripada total semua. So sekarang ni totalnya 316,000. Okay. 10% rules ni you kena darab lah. 316,000 ni times 10% which is equivalent to 31,600. Tapi installation ni tengok tadi berapa je? 2,004. So kalau installation 2,004 kita boleh kira macam ni, and then the QE would be 360,000, 16,000. So whenever you have the installation ni, kita kena tengok dulu the 10% lebih ataupun tidak. Okay. Number 2, cutting machine. Okay, cutting machine. Oh, lagi. Cutting machine. Alright, so cutting machine, the cost incurred on preparing the site for installation does not qualify as plant expenditure because it exceeds the aggregate cost of the machine and cost of site preparation. Okay, cost of machine tadi 62,000. Installation dia 8,000. So first of all, kita kena kira dulu the aggregate dia dulu. So 62 plus 8, it will give us 70,000. This is the 10% rule. Kena kira 10% rule sebab dia ada installation cost. So 10% from 70,000, that will give us 7,000. Lebih kan dari, lebih pula kurang dari 8,000 installation cost ni. Because installation dia 8, the maximum is 7 je. So, bila macam ni, 8,000 ni tak boleh kira pun. So, your QE for machine ni is only 62,000. Boleh faham tak? Why the QE would be 62. But for this one, QE kita boleh ambil semua. Any questions tak? Because of the installation ni. Boleh faham Right. So the first one, we take everything because this is less than 10%. But the second one, we cannot take everything because this is more than 10%. So the QE would be only 62,000. Okay, printing machine, cutting machine. Okay. Alright, so before we can proceed to the capital allowance calculation, so we have to complete the QE ni dulu. Once you get the QE, let's say tadi kita tengok for heavy machinery, for plant and machinery, 20%. So 20% ni will be calculated based on 62,000 ni. So there are three types of capital allowance given for plant and machinery, initial allowance, annual allowance, and also balancing allowance. So ignore this part ni, tak ada ni . This is based on Jaya Parent punya textbook, but you don't have the textbook. Alright. So the first one is initial allowance. Okay, 20%. Ini fixed, 20%. Full year capital allowance, no time apportionment is required. Let's say you purchase the asset in September. Your business ends in December. Nampak tak? Baru pakai 3 bulan je kan? For initial allowance, regardless bila beli, you will be given a full year capital allowance. Okay, dia tak payah proportion kan. Eligibility, again, mesti incur, use for business, and the person is the owner. Ni apa ni? Annual allowance, every year as long as the asset is in use at the end of the basis period. So the rate varies according to industry and also type of asset. Dan kita kira based on straight line basis je, referring to the full amount of qualifying expenditure. Okay. Alright, I want you to think about this one. Who can claim the capital allowance of the van? Right, I have answer here, Chandra lah, Krishnan lah. What do you think? But you understand the story kan? So these are brothers. Dua-dua ada business. One operate a restaurant, another one run a profitable grocery store. So which one, Chandra or Krishnan? What if I say both cannot claim? Will you agree with me if I said both cannot claim capital allowance of the van? Kita kena tengok seorang-seorang Krishnan, okay. Krishnan lah, Chandra lah. Alright, so first of all, kita tengok the story started with Krishnan. He operates a restaurant. So in order to expand his business, he needs a van, but does not have sufficient funds to buy one. So abang dia runs a profitable grocery store business, and Krishnan has asked Chandra to buy him a van. Okay, Chandra kata, okay, alright, I will pay for the van in cash and be responsible for the maintenance of the van. But the van will be registered in Krishna's name and will be used in Krishna's restaurant business, and the van will not be used in Chandra's grocery store business. In this case, both cannot claim capital allowance. Why? Okay, let's look at Krishnan. Krishnan ni kita kata walaupun dia legal owner, dia beli, legal owner pula, sorry, yang beli Chandra, kita kata legal owner because the brother bought the van and bagi dekat dia untuk guna untuk restaurant business kan. So the van tu kita kata dia gunalah, Krishnan guna for his business. Tapi did he incur any expenditure for the van? No. No, jadi tak boleh because if you go back to the ni tadi, definition tadi, mana okay. Capital expenditure must be incurred. So the person incurring expenditure must be carrying a business. The person must be the owner at the end of the basis period, and it must be used for the purpose of the claimant's business. So in this case tadi Chandra beli je, but the brother yang guna, Krishnan yang guna, Krishnan guna, Chandra maintain, Chandra beli, tapi nama Krishnan. So here Krishnan doesn't incur any expenditure. Okay. So bila dia tak incur any expenditure, kita kata he is not the beneficial owner lah, so he cannot claim. Dia tak ada spend duit pun untuk van tu, but so he cannot claim. But for Chandra, kita nampakkan Chandra ni yang beli, Chandra yang maintain kan. And kita nak tahu, can Chandra claim for capital allowance? Cannot juga. Walaupun dia incur expenditure, dia mesti 4 condition tadi kena fulfill. So now Chandra incur the expenditure to purchase the van, but dia tak guna untuk business dia. Okay. So he is the beneficial owner, but it is not used in his business. Guna untuk business adik dia, not himself. So in this case, both rugilah, both cannot claim the capital allowance. Boleh faham why dua-dua tak boleh claim? Boleh Right. So these are the rates for plant and machinery. Okay. Annual allowance dia lah. Tadi kita tengok initial allowance. So here is the annual allowance dia. 20% for heavy machinery, 14% for plant and machinery, and others 10%. Okay, I have one example for you. So I will upload the notes and also the example after class. So for now you all tengok dulu. Okay. So this is how we should compute the capital allowance. So for example here we have this company, Sedap Makan Sendirian Berhad, manufacturer of instant noodles. The company closed its first set of account on 31st December 2012. So the company acquired office equipment comprises of the following: telephone system and also office safe. You need the date there. A full year capital allowance will be computed notwithstanding the ownership period is less than a year. Right? Remember for capital allowance kita akan kira terus untuk 1 tahun. Kita tak ada prorate dah. Walaupun nampak dia beli bulan 4 lah, bulan 10 lah. And the initial allowance rate will be 20% while annual allowance rate is 10%. Okay, so office equipment. So this is the rate 20 and 10. So the qualifying expenditure 100. Ini bukan plant and machinery, so we don't have to compute the 10% rule tu. This is office equipment. Okay. So qualifying expenditure 100, the total. Current year initial allowance 20%. 20% times 100 is 20. 10% times 100 is 10. Okay, ni 100,000 10,000, 20,000. So for year assessment 2012, it would be 30,000. So 100 minus 30, that will give us 70. And every year kita kena kira macam ni lah. Let's say kita nak kira untuk sampai ke 2019. So this is what we're going to have. Annual allowance for 2013, 10. Nampak tak? Annual allowance ni rate dia fix je. So every year sampai dah dia habis, you have to minus 10 lah. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Sampailah 2019. So 2019 habis. This is already written off. Sampai habis. So the capital allowance ni fully claimed in year assessment 2019. Let's say you have to compute until 2015 contohnya kan. So if you have to compute until 2015, then tolak je lah 70 minus lagi 30. So the value dia tinggal lagi 40,000 kan. So here in this case ni fully depreciated lah, fully claim until in year 2019. Okay. So this is how you should compute for each type of assets. So let's go back to our notes here. Accelerated ni perlu ke? Okay. So tadi kita tengok plant and machinery and the example is for office equipment. So let's look at yang ni, saya skip je, nanti kita boleh baca. Let's look at the second one which is motor vehicles. So motor vehicles ni there are two types. Satu register for commercial use, satu lagi registered for personal use. So untuk motor vehicle yang not licensed for commercial use, let's say just like you and me, kita ada personal for personal use je, restricted to 50,000. Sebab kita tak register under business use. Sebab for business use the road tax lagi mahal compared to personal use. So motor vehicles are not licensed for commercial use, but the motor vehicle is new and total cost when new does not exceed 150,000, then the qualifying expenditure is restricted to 100,000. So this commercial use lah, for example lorry, truck, bus, minibus and vans. So ini memang not subject to restriction lah. Biasanya kereta lah yang ada restriction. So ini nanti abaikannya begitu buat. So this is the example. A company purchase a new car. Okay, sebab tadi dekat sini kata kalau cost dia baru, kalau dia baru so here new car costing 120,000 to be used in the business. So kita tahulah to be used by the business or to be used by the director in year 2018. So calculate the capital allowance for year assessment 2019 So here QE is restricted to 100,000 sebab dia pakai untuk both not licensed for commercial use, but the motor vehicle is new, total cost when new does not exceed 150,000. So sekarang cost dia 120 baru kan, tapi pakai dua-dua. Business pakai, director pun pakai So QE dia restricted to 100,000. So this is how we calculate the initial allowance and also the annual allowance. So untuk year 2019, we call this the balance ni kita panggil sebab we call it as residual expenditure but in accounting we call it net book value ataupun sometimes we also use the term residual expenditure. Alright, so for year assessment 2019 no more initial allowance, hanya ada annual allowance. So the residual expenditure in year 2019 would be 40,000. Hire purchase ni nanti dululah, hire purchase tengok apa lagi ada dalam ni. Balancing allowance, balancing charge ni nanti dululah I will continue this next week. Alright, for next week, I will continue this capital allowance and I will upload these notes later. But for today, what you have in your Google Classroom. So again, I'm sorry about the technical glitch that we have on Saturday tu, my guru punya pasal. So semua orang kena buat exam dekat Google Classroom. And afterwards, all the assessment will be done through Google Classroom. But I will still upload the notes in my guru and the assignment hantar pun dekat my guru. And your attendance and the class for the class you have to log in through my guru. For the attendance pun dalam saya akan export daripada my guru, export ke my sis je. And also the link untuk recorded class also in my guru. Okay, the assessment je kita buat dekat Google Classroom. All your quizzes and tutorials after this will be done through Google Classroom. So for today's punya class, what I have prepared for you is, number one is a tutorial for, sekejap. Number one is personal relief tutorial. Ada soalan dekat Google Classroom. You have to submit by tomorrow. Okay. And also you have quiz, so you can attempt the quiz now, and you have to submit by quiz that available dah pukul 10. I think saya set pukul 10. You have until 1 to submit your quiz dekat Google Classroom juga. Quiz tu multiple choice question je. Quiz on personal relief and also tutorial on personal relief and business tax ni bila saya letak due date dia. You check lah because I set different schedule different date for your assessment ni. So for today, what you have to do is just the quiz lah, personal relief quiz in your Google Classroom. Any questions? I hope everybody already submitted the draft for the assignment tu dah hari Selasa dah ni. Alright, any questions?
No.
No, alright. So don't forget to answer the quiz. Hang dah. Yep.
Kalau dah submit, nak tahu dah boleh proceed ke belum?
The draft tu saya akan update maybe today or tomorrow lah.
Okay.
Alright, so don't forget to complete your quiz, Google Classroom, and I will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Madam.